Hi, this is Mrs. McCreary. Today we're going to be talking about plant cells. This is the same picture from your course, although now we've got that white background so we can really see what all these labels are. So we're just going to be spending a few minutes talking about what these parts are and what they do. Okay, so we're going to start at the outside with this cell wall here. So the cell wall is this nice green section. You can see it's got nice good structure to it over here, and the main purpose for the cell wall, particularly in a plant cell, is to give it that support and protection. That is what is going to give your plant ultimately the structure that it has, because as we know, plants don't have bones. Animals get their structure from either an internal or an external skeleton system. Plants just have their cell walls that come together to make their structure, whether it's an algae or a leaf or even all the way up to a tree. They get all of their structure and support from their cell walls. That cell walls also work to protect the cell, keep any, at this level, microscopic viruses, bacteria, harmful chemicals out of the cell so that it doesn't interfere with any of the organelles that are on the inside. And it also works as a pressure vessel. Excuse me. So plant cells specifically are very susceptible to changes in pressure due to how much water is in the cell. So that the cell wall is going to keep it generally the correct shape and size despite the amount of water that is in the cell. It is going to do its best to keep it still full and open even if there isn't a lot of water, but you know, we've all seen plants wilt, and when there's not enough water, that plant cell or the cell wall just can't hold itself up. But it does work to also contain the water when, you know, there's an abundance. Okay, so then we have these plasmodesmata, okay, and they look like just little holes, and that's basically what they are. They're just little holes that allow different molecules to travel in between the cell, whether that is energy molecules, whether it's water, sugar, waste particles that need to be evicted from the cell. They just allow for the transference. Okay, and then inside the cell wall we have the plasma membrane or the cell membrane. It separates the interior of the cell from the exterior. It works with those plasmodesmata to kind of filter what molecules go into the cell. It's selectively permeable. Permeable means that like liquids can go through it. So it has the ability to let certain molecules through but not others. Okay, so now inside we have all this blue, we have all these other things. There's the blue stuff, and then there's these other different colored things. Now all of that together is called the cytoplasm. Now the cytoplasm we generally think of as just that blue kind of goo, and then everything else they're called organelles. Okay, but really the cytoplasm is just kind of everything else. Inside the cytoplasm we have these cytoskeletons. And they are just different kinds of fibers in the cytoplasm. They give some structure, but they're not rigid, they're not permanent as, you know, like mammalian bones would be. They do change and get rebuilt in different structures. And then in animal cells, they perform a lot of different things. But in plant cells, they're mostly just there to help the cell wall with that structure. Okay? So then these other blobby things on the inside are they're called organelles, and we'll go ahead and start over here with the chloroplasts, which is this green thing here. Okay, chloroplasts being one of the very special organelles in just plant cells. And one of the reasons that they are so special is because they have this thylakoid membrane. And the thylakoid membrane is where the chlorophyll is. It's basically a bunch of sacs all next to each other that have the chlorophyll in there, and that's where that photosynthesis process happens. We'll be talking about photosynthesis later. And so all of that happens in the thylakoid membrane. And then you see these little yellow bits here and here are the starch grains. And as the photosynthesis happens during the day, while the chloroplasts in the membrane produce, convert the sun's light into sugar and water, that sugar gets stored in those starch grains. Okay, so that is, and then the sugar is taken to other parts of the cells to be used later. We will go ahead and go to the small membranous vesicles. And that is where a lot of chemical reactions happen. They're basically just these little blobs where the chemical reactions happen, and they organize cellular substances. So they go through and they kind of absorb things from the cytoplasm and then look at them, and if something needs to get changed, it gets changed, and if it needs to go to a certain place, they kind of take it to another place. Okay, so then over here we've got this big vacuole. It's this big blue globby thing that's taking up most of the cell. In plant cells, it can take up to 30% of the cell. And the inside is called the vacuole, and it's a compartment that fills with water and other molecules, including enzymes. When materials are brought into the cell, they go in there. And also, if there are waste products in the cell, they'll go in there. So it's kind of like the door for the cell. It brings things in, it lets things out. This tonoplast is the outer layer, and it's basically just another membrane that keeps the things on the inside of the vacuole on the inside and the things outside in the cytoplasm outside. So it's just separating everything. Sorry. And then we have the mitochondria or mitochondrion over here, depending on if we're talking about one or many. We've got another one over here. Those are our mitochondria. And mitochondria are generally referred to as the powerhouse of the cell. They generate most of the cell's ATP, which is a chemical, it's used for energy. It's an energy chemical. And so that is made in the mitochondria. We have over here the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, which are these kind of hairy things. And they synthesize lipids, phospholipids, and steroids, and they're useful in a lot of metabolic processes. So they are taking different chemicals from the cytoplasm, and they are turning it into the things that the cells need. With these smooth endoplasmic reticulum, we also have the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and they, along with the ribosomes, the rough endoplasmic reticulum is all these ziggy-zaggy compartment thingies, and the ribosomes are these little black dots. Okay, so the ribosomes, they link the amino acids together in proteins. They can read the RNA and create that partner side for, the proteins to produce the molecules that need to do work. Now, in the rough endoplasmic reticulum, that the ribosomes kind of attach to them, get the materials from the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and then the ribosomes can create their proteins. Over here we've got the Golgi bodies. They look fairly similar to the rough endoplasmic reticulum in that they kind of go back and forth and ziggy-zaggy and blobby. So the Golgi bodies, they package proteins into membrane-bound vesicles before shipping. So anytime that the Golgi body finds something, it kind of just puts it in a little package and sends it to wherever it needs to go. It's kind of like the post office of the cell. It's going to help work with the small membranous vesicles to kind of ship everything everywhere it needs to go. And so here are some Golgi vesicles sending some sort of molecule somewhere into the cell. Okay, we also have the peroxisome, and it breaks down long fatty acids into medium fatty acids and eventually down into carbon dioxide and water. So it's going to get some of those really, really long fatty acids, really long chains, down to smaller sizes. At that point in animal cells, it goes over to the mitochondria, but in plant cells, it just stays in the peroxisome. Okay, and so then that leaves us with our nucleus. Okay, we start with the nuclear envelope, which is this yellow part, and that again is just any membrane, any envelope. It's just separating what's inside from what's outside, making sure everything, kind of stays quarantined and sterile. But then we've got these little lighter dots that are the pores. So there will be times that some things have to come in and some things have to come out, and they can do that through the pores. It's just a hole in that envelope. And then at the very center we have the nucleolus, and that is where the DNA is stored. That's where the chromosomes are. That's where all of the information on how to make all of these parts, on how to make the plant, on how to make all the different parts, that is where that is stored. So the nucleus is very important and easy to see why we have that envelope around protecting the nucleolus that houses all that DNA. Okay, so please let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully this will help you label your plant cell a little bit easier, being able to see all the different labels specifically. And go back to a blank screen. Hold on. Give you one nice clear picture of everything. And of course you can pause it if you need to. Again, if you have any questions, we'll have our live chat. And otherwise, I will talk to you guys later.